Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series, Rescue the Rockies. And the 2032 season has been going very well for our Rockies as we sit here 80 games into the season on July 2nd. Our 56-24 record is the best in baseball, and our 12.5 game lead over the San Francisco Giants in the NL West is larger than the combined leads of the other 5 division leaders in baseball here as we close in on the midway point of the season and the All-Star break. So things going well for our Rockies, the second best offense in Major League Baseball, the third best earned run average in Major League Baseball, and clearly the best record in baseball as we head into the second half of the season. Defensive efficiency, we do rank 23rd, which is kind of interesting. The only real major change is that Gus Nieves, who is not a great outfielder, is playing more outfield this year than designated hitter. And we've got a new third baseman with Colt Keith, who's pretty similar to the guys who have manned that position in the past. Maybe a little worse, to be honest, defensively than Adail Amador was. But certainly nothing that on paper should have moved us from being one of the better defensive teams in baseball to one of the worst baseball teams as far as handling the ball, fielding it, throwing it, and making plays defensively. But we're doing our best 2025 New York Yankees impression thus far in the infield, unfortunately. But that's really the only criticism that we can have of the team at this point, as things are going very well. In this episode, we're going to do our mid-season review of the team, start checking in on how everyone is doing in a little bit more detail and figuring out any areas where we may look to find some improvement in the trade market over the next 4 weeks or so till we get to the trade deadline. And then we'll also sim forward to the beginning of the draft and see who the options available for us are and open up things to the worldwide scouting department to opine on over the next 4 or 5 days as far as who we should perhaps pick with our first round pick this year. Because as well as things are going now, we know we always are going to be needing to replace the talent on our team with hopefully better, younger, and cheaper guys as the years move along. And as we sit here on July 2nd, the pitching staff, particularly the starting rotation, doing very well. Our top 3 starters are all having outstanding seasons. The big free agent acquisition, Noah Schultz, undefeated 10-0 record in the decisions he has. 2.37 ERA with 115 strikeouts over 102 2/3 innings. Allowed just 5 home runs, an outstanding whip of 0.89 and a 3.5 WAR. Honestly, could not hope that his debut season with the Rockies was going any better. Leo Martinez, the homegrown product, a scouting discovery back in 2027, having an excellent sophomore season, 7-3 record with a 2.93 ERA. He's already pitched more innings than he did in his injury-plagued rookie year and already has a higher WAR than a season ago with a 3.1 WAR. Seems like the good strength and conditioning program he had this past offseason has thus far helped him on the injury front. And then Dylan Jordan, who we traded for last offseason, off to an excellent start as well. 9-3 record with a 2.26 ERA and a team best among pitchers, 3.4 WAR for our number 3 starter. Andrew Painter, more mixed results this year. The record is 7-6, the ERA 4.80, but still has a 1.3 WAR just about midway through the season. Braden Nett has been a starter for us at times, a reliever for us at times. Isaiah Shader, who would have typically been our 3rd or 4th starter, has been injured 2 times this year. He's on his second trip to the IL with elbow issues, which is certainly not optimal. So net back in the rotation at this point, 3-2 record with a 5.31 ERA. He's actually been a bit below replacement level this year. Net is a guy who we picked up in a trade very early in this playthrough on May 19th, 2025. Could have even been possibly our first day of this playthrough. I can't remember exactly when in mid-May we started, but he's been with us the whole time, but set to hit free agency this upcoming year. Given his declining performance and given that he is still looking for over $10 million a year, I think that Net probably pitching in his final season with our Rockies. So with Shader hopefully coming back at some point and outstanding performances by 3 of our starters, don't know that starting pitching is a huge need of ours, but clearly injuries could change that. Wellington Herrera having another nice season as our closer, 17 saves with a 2.83 ERA, his 1.4 WAR already higher than what he put up all of last season. Drew Summers, we signed him to an extension to come back this year, and he's been good for us out of the pen again. 2.81 ERA over 25 2/3 innings as a setup man and lefty specialist. Brought back Luke Little as well for a higher price tag, team option for $6 million. He's put up a 2.42 ERA over 26 innings pitched for us. A little bit of a down year thus far for Justin Gibson. The ERA has ballooned to 4.89, which is not great, but he does still have 53 strikeouts in just 38 2/3 innings, and he's still close to a win above replacement level. Ryan Featherston and Bill Douglas have been our middle relievers all year, and they've done respectively. Featherston, 4.32 ERA over 25 innings pitched, slightly below replacement level, but he's a cheap alternative who's not blowing up on a regular basis. Bill Douglas, his first long stint in the majors, and he's put up a 3.09 ERA over 32 innings. James Embry, former second-round draft pick, who is not a big-time prospect anymore at this point. 1-0 record with a save, but he does have an ERA of over 5 and allowed 4 home runs in just 14 1/3 innings pitched. He's been up and down between AAA and the majors. And then Kumar Rocker, who was our 5th starter a year ago, was looking for big money in free agency and didn't get it. We signed him to a minor league contract after the season started, and he's put up a 3.75 ERA, pitching 36 innings out of the bullpen for us. He would be the most logical option if we had some other injury issues to the starting rotation right now. So I'll never give up an opportunity to bring a big-time starter on board if we can, but I think realistically an arm or 2 for the bullpen is probably what we'll be focusing on in the trade market as far as our pitching staff as we think about trying to position this roster as well as possible to get back to the playoffs for a 7th straight year and hopefully win a 2nd consecutive World Series championship. Moving on to our position players, backup catcher Chris Boone has been an issue offensively, as you would suspect looking at his ratings. The 26-year-old former 9th-round draft pick hitting a .172 in 58 at-bats with a sickly 26 WRC+. Even with pretty solid defense, he's been below replacement level. So although we've got Mike Girard toiling away in the minors, he's not ready for the majors yet, and he's actually had a few little minor injury issues this year, so he's not a solution, but perhaps a trade for a backup catcher who could be a little more productive offensively while also still, most importantly, having a good glove is something to think about. Starting catcher, though, no real issues. A bit of a down year for Drew Romo, hitting just .252 this year. Only 1 home run through his first 226 at-bats. So a 79 WRC plus, but still a 1.4 WAR on the season. Still one of the premier defensive catchers in all of baseball, and the switch hitter is going to likely be our starter this year and next year when we get into the team option in 2034, depending on what the rest of our salary situation looks like and what the development of Mike Gerard looks like. That could be an inflection point in Romo's career with the Rockies. First base platoon this year is going well. Matt McElroy playing against left-handed pitching, 281 average with 8 homers and 24 ribbies and 121 at-bats, 130 WRC plus for the 26-year-old who, if we're playing him primarily against left-handed pitching, can be a pretty productive offensive player. A bit of a down year for Ryan Stone against right-handed pitching, but a down year for him is still pretty successful. 265 average with 16 homers and 47 ribbies and 234 at-bats. His 124 OPS plus and 120 WRC plus are both down from where they were a year ago, but certainly still very respectable. Gavin Lux picked him up in a trade with Arizona back in February to be a utility infielder for us, and he is doing a solid job for us. 276 average, over 123 at-bats. Been close to a league average offensive player, although a bit below replacement level. Must be some fielding issues there. Yeah, at second and third base, he's been pretty brutal this year in terms of his zone rating and defensive efficiency, which is odd because he's a natural second baseman over the course of most of his career, and we trained him up to be as fully proficient as we think he could be at third base. So Lux certainly has contributed a bit with those stats to our poor defense. I think that hopefully that's something that will normalize going forward. Marcelo Meyer has played a lot of short for us this year, which isn't his core position. He's typically our second baseman. 272 average with 20 doubles already through 265 at-bats. He's already stolen 10 bases, been a slightly above average offensive player with a 1.6 WAR. He is a guy who will be arbitration eligible for the last time next year. Probably will be back as our second baseman. Fielding stats for him: he has been below average, certainly when we played him at shortstop. So hopefully if we can keep Ezekiel Tovar healthy the rest of the way and have Meyer back as our starting second baseman where he's well above average, that will help the team defense. Colt Keith, the new third baseman, hitting 257 with 13 homers and 55 ribbies and 269 at-bats. So a 118 WRC plus, a 1.5 WAR. He had been primarily a first baseman with the Detroit organization, so we played him at third base in spring training. You can see he's still learning the position a little bit, so that hasn't helped with the statistics there where he's been below average in terms of his zone rating and defensive efficiency. Hopefully that will improve a bit over the second half of the year as he gets more comfortable there. Ezekiel Tovar has had a couple of stints on the IL for us, unfortunately, but he has been extremely productive when he has been active. 319 average with 16 doubles, 8 homers in 210 at-bats, 127 WRC plus, and a 2.0 WAR. Fielding-wise, he continues to be an above-average defensive shortstop when he's been in the lineup. So again, keeping the now fragile Tovar healthy and well and in the lineup as much as possible is going to be something that's critical to hopefully helping us improve our overall team defense over the second half of this year. And turning now to our loaded outfield and starting with the most loaded guy out there, Kevin Roberts Jr. We've had some hits and many misses through the draft in the IFA pools over the first closing in on 8 years of this series, but the biggest hit of all was a 5th overall pick on Kevin Roberts Jr., who has developed even better than we could have hoped, and having a monster second season. The batting average of 268 doesn't jump off the page, but league leading 29 homers and 69 ribbies midway through the season do. He's also 8 for 9 stealing bases, an OPS of over 1,000, 158 WRC plus, and a 3.7 WAR for the youngster, who certainly appears to be a very strong most valuable player candidate for the regular season this year, after he won the MVP in both the LCS and the World Series for us a year ago. Dean West in center field, hitting just 220, 11 doubles, 1 triple, and 3 homers. He has stolen 9 bases, but a 72 WRC plus and a 0.6 WAR. He's out there primarily for his defense and also to just avoid Roberts having to play center field every day. Roberts playing left field for us this year against right-handed pitching, center field against lefties. Trent Clausen back in a platoon role, playing primarily against left-handed pitching. The batting average has dropped to 238 this year, but he has generated a lot of extra base hits with 11 doubles and 4 homers in 105 at-bats. So it adds up to a 117 WRC plus and a 0.7 WAR. Again, not as productive as he was a year ago. The former first-round pick out of Oregon State looks more like a platoon player, 4th outfielder type for us, but still a useful major league player. Ted Miller, the rookie, has been our DH for every game this year, hitting just 223, has 9 homers and 38 ribbies in 282 at-bats. He does have a good eye. He's walked 45 times, although he's struck out 75 times. So his on-base percentage is more than 100 points above his batting average, but an OPS still below 700 and an 86 WRC plus is not optimal. He's a guy who we could be looking to potentially send down to AAA. We've got Christian Arguelles there, who was our left fielder last year against right-handed pitching and had a really nice season for us, and he has been productive this year also when he's been up with us a couple of times. Bringing Arguelles back would also allow us to get Nieves to a DH role and a little less wear and tear on him. Nieves, by his standards, having a down year, 283 average with 16 homers and 45 ribbies at the midway point of the season. But a down year for him is a 142 WRC plus and a 2.0 WAR. The fielding, as it often is an issue, though. He's a below-average right fielder, at least statistically, in terms of his zone rating and defensive efficiency, and he's typically been that way through his career. At this point, I am going to send Ted Miller back down to AAA. If you're a everyday DH, you've got to be an above-average offensive player for us. Certainly looks like with his ratings he should be, but given that he hasn't been that productive, and we've gotten very good solution in Arguelles out there that I think will generate more offense over the near term and also help us tighten up the outfield defense a bit. We're going to make that move right now, but certainly still think that Miller's an important part of our future, but maybe he can get himself right in AAA. So Arguelles back on the roster. I mentioned that he'd become our left fielder. Kevin Roberts Jr. will go to right field, and Gus Nieves to designated hitter. Against left-handed batters, Roberts Jr. also going to pivot to right field. Nieves going to go to DH, and Dean West will be playing center field for us. Hopefully can at least give us good defense. So as I think about the everyday players, a backup catcher, and then if we can get a very good defensive second baseman / shortstop type who doesn't have a horrible bat, I don't think that would be the worst thing to throw in the mix, just to give us a little bit of insurance, given that Tovar and Meyer are both fragile physically at this point. And for a bonus, we'll do a real quick in-season look at our 7 top 100 prospects. The minor league system overall ranks 5th overall, so it's gotten a little better over the course of this year and having a little more success on the field, which is always helpful. Our 2 weakest teams are actually our AA and AAA teams, the lower levels of the organization performing very well thus far this season. Dan Patterson, second-round pick from a year ago, finishing up his first professional season with our ACL team, listed as the number 20 prospect in baseball, but it is a situation where our scout is unfortunately getting less constructive on him, while the OSA still thinks he's a potential monster. We've seen that pattern with some other former picks, and it hasn't generally worked out well. 1-3 record with a 6.31 ERA for our ACL team this year. Was still a win above replacement. His FIP minus and his ERA plus were both actually above average for that league, which is kind of scary when you see a 6.31 ERA. Did strike out 58 batters in 41 1/3 innings, but his ceiling already doesn't appear quite as high as we thought it was when we drafted him less than a year ago. Phil Dingwell, first-round supplemental pick from 2 years ago, much better in his second season this year. Was below 200 in terms of his batting average last year, above 300 this year as a 20-year-old, 8 homers and 26 ribbies in 129 at-bats, OPS of over 1,000. So he has been good for us and borderline, whether he's ready for the California League. Doesn't look like he's going to be completely embarrassed there. So in the next few days, as the ACL season winds to an end, I would expect at 20 years old that Dingwell will be getting a promotion to the Fresno Grizzlies. Also got a debut in the Dominican League from Hendrik Jan van Gorkum, a big IAFA signing of ours a year ago, listed as the number 40 prospect in baseball, and his professional career at just 18 years old off to a really nice start, hitting .305 with 10 extra base hits in 82 at-bats for our DSL squad. So even though he's pretty young, he is holding his own. Derby Mahez, just promoted him earlier today to AAA, so he hasn't played there yet. Hit .302 with 20 extra base hits, 16 of them doubles in 159 at-bats at AA Hartford this year. 126 WRC plus and a 1.6 WAR. He's now fully trained up and as proficient as we think he's going to be at second, third, and short. So he is a guy who will give us some additional defensive versatility, hopefully perhaps by this September at the major league level, and maybe is an option to perhaps even make a postseason roster for us. Had always viewed him as a third baseman when we picked him in the draft 2 years ago, but he's done so well in the development lab that he certainly could play some other positions. Love the defensive skills, like the speed, love the personality. The question with Mahez, is he going to have a acceptable major league bat or a plus major league bat? And if he ends up with a acceptable major league bat, he's certainly a good, solid, useful player with all of those other attributes. If he ends up with a plus major league bat when all is said and done, he's potentially an extremely valuable player for us. Brian Stoops, first-round pick of ours last year out of New Mexico State, started this year in high A ball, 2-4 with a 3.45 ERA, so definitely improved compared to the 6 games he had pitched in high A a year ago. Promoted him to AA a few weeks ago, and all he's done in the Eastern League is go 4-0 with a 2.65 earned run average. Continue to think he could be a contributing member of our pitching staff in the not-too-distant future. And with guys like Braden Nett likely headed away after this year, and Isaiah Shader increasingly looking like He may already be regressing a bit, having some injury issues, and probably not someone who we're going to keep past his arbitration years. Continued development of Brian Stoops going to be important to our organization hitting our goals. Guy you haven't probably heard about before because he was a scouting discovery almost 3 years ago. Kikaku Kawakami, scouting discovery, is now listed as the number 52 prospect in baseball. The 19-year-old making his professional debut this year, 0-1 with an ERA of just over 5 for our DSL team. Don't know that Kawakami is ultimately going to be a perfect fit for us in Colorado. He's a fly ball pitcher who looks like he's going to have trouble keeping the ball in the ballpark, but certainly has a profile that indicates he could have a fair amount of value if we decided to use him as trade bait down the line, if he develops as well as we hope he will. And our final top 100 prospect is a more familiar name, Jose Ramirez, our IAFA signing from 2029, the number 90 prospect in baseball. He's gone 6-1 with a 2.86 ERA for our ACL team this year. Strong improvement from a year ago. That season, as I noted, wrapping up in the next few days. The walking man, the decision with him is at 20 years old. Do we send him to get a little more seasoning in the DSL where we expect him to be totally dominant, or do we promote him to the California League? Looking at his ratings, I think a promotion to the California League, particularly with how well he's pitched in the ACL this year, is the logical move for the walking man in the coming days once the ACL season for our team finally comes to an end. And take a quick look now at our team schedule before we head to the draft. We're starting a 3-game series at home against the Giants today, 3 at home against Chicago, and then we'll be on the road in Texas when we get to draft day 2032 on July 11th. Hopefully we can take all of these series and keep the good momentum going, particularly with 2 of these 3 series being at home before we get to the draft. Good news, we've at least taken the first series, winning the first 2 games against the Giants, outscoring them 13-2, but the recently promoted Christian Arguelles is going to be out for the next 1 to 2 weeks with a virus, so we are going to put him on the IL and likely bring back Ted Miller for the time being. And as we talked about, Ted Miller, certainly not a good defensive outfielder, but given that Nieves has been bad in right field and Miller has been struggling to produce as a DH, we're going to, at least over the next week and a half or so, play Miller in left field, Nieves at DH. And we're also going to keep Dean West in the lineup against left-handed pitching. So we're only going to play Ted Miller against right-handed pitching where he should be most effective. We're going to play him in the field, so there's no DH deterioration or penalties associated with his offense, and see if perhaps that can help him jumpstart. Again, he hasn't been horrible, but if you're playing a designated hitter, in most situations, you've got to be an above-average offensive player, which he unfortunately has not been thus far. And we completed the sweep against the Giants, so now we'll be hosting the Cubs for the next 3 days. Their outstanding pitcher, James Woods, will be pitching game number 2. Actually, it's Jordan Woods, James Wood. I guess I'm thinking of the Nationals, but Jordan Woods on the mound in the second game of that series. Kevin Roberts Jr., monster week, 10 for 21 with 4 homers and 12 ribbies as our Rockies continue to roll. Sitting here on July 5th, he's only 1 ribby away from matching what he did in his rookie season, and he's already got 12 home runs more than he hit as a rookie. And we did take 2 out of 3 against the Cubs at home. Perhaps not surprisingly, lost the Jordan Woods game in a pitcher's duel. Woods outpitched Net, but a strong performance from Net, which is good to see. So a nice start to the month of July, 6-1 record over these first 7 games of the month for our Rockies, as we get an off day today and then on the road in Texas before we get to the draft. And in what will hopefully be good luck for the team, although not necessarily great luck for Braden Net, despite that really good start he had. We're going to move him back into the bullpen in a long relief emergency starting pitcher role for us. Isaiah Shader healthy again, not having a great season, 4-3 with a 5.60 ERA, but he has faced some injury issues, so we're going to give him an opportunity to try to bounce back over the next few starts. Certainly feel with both Net and Rocker that we've got guys who could give us respectable work out of that 5th starter role if Shader is unable to turn his season around. We sent, perhaps not surprisingly, James Embry back down to AAA to make room on the roster for Shader coming off of the IL. And we won the first 2 games on the road at Texas, so 8-1 record now in this month of July for our Rockies. Things continue to go exceedingly well. The lead in the division up to 14.5 games on San Francisco at this point. When we think about the best record in the National League, we're 12 games up on the Brewers for the best record in the NL, home field advantage throughout the NL playoffs. In our quest to have the best record in baseball for a 3rd straight season, looks like we are up 10 games on the Detroit Tigers in that battle, who are playing .600 baseball this year. Outstanding season, but when there's a team like ours playing .700 baseball, you're still going to be pretty far behind. Roberts Jr. continues to lead the league in homers and ribbies with 32 and 78 respectively. Still has an OPS over 1,000 and his 4.2 WAR. Both of those figures rank 3rd in the National League. Starting pitching remains all over the leaderboard. Noah Schultz and Dylan Jordan, 1st and 2nd in ERA. Jordan and Schultz tied for the league lead with 11 wins. Schultz 2nd in the league with 126 strikeouts. And Schultz, Martinez, and Jordan rank 1 and tied for 2nd for Martinez and Jordan in the National League in pitcher WAR. So things continue to fire on all cylinders for this Colorado Rockies squad. And turning our attention now to the draft, we're going to be picking with the final pick in the first round, 34th overall. So good to get another pick on the board for us this year. We did lose our 3rd round pick because of the signing of Noah Schultz. With the money and the years we gave him, I think that would normally be a 1st round pick that we lost. There must be some type of formula or something a little more opaque that I'm not thinking about, but a very talented class and with a bigger investment in scouting, just in terms of the dollars and also the amount allocated to the amateur players, and then also having the draft combine back on and being able to really focus on some players there. Going to have very high scouting accuracy on most of the pool, which hopefully will help us make some very good decisions here. We're going to go ahead, start the draft, assuming most of these 80 potential, if not all of these 80 potential guys, will be off the clock and off the board by the time we're on the clock, more accurately speaking, which is always a challenge for me. Well, there's one 80 potential player still available, a relief pitcher. Bob Smith was a guy I wanted to talk about. Looks like he went 28th overall to Toronto. You may remember Bob Smith. He's a guy that we looked at 3 years ago. He was drafted 33rd overall by the Mets, but he failed to sign with them and decided to go back to school. And he's in the draft again this year, picked a little earlier. Struggling in the draft league, 206 average with 2 homers and 68 at-bats and 25 strikeouts. But he was a productive player in college the last few years with the home run power that he has. For a 21-year-old who spent 3 years in college, probably not as far along with his development as we would have perhaps thought he'd be when he was a first-round pick as a high schooler. But he's one guy that we won't get an opportunity to draft this time around. And again, for those of you who haven't been following my personal life as closely, we'll be out of pocket traveling for the next several days. It'll be a late morning Sunday when I post this video, so there's going to be lots of time for the Worldwide Scouting Department to react to this video and appreciate any thoughts that you have on what we should do in this draft. Most likely will be next weekend when I am back, so I have not forgotten about you. I will miss being able to interact with you on a daily basis for this upcoming week, but we're not just going to disappear and end this series. Those of you who have followed me over the years know that that's not my MO. If and when I disappear and a series ends mysteriously without a nice bow being tied on it, probably means that I am trapped under a large object somewhere, or perhaps something worse has befallen me. Hopefully that will not occur for many years to come. So according to our scout, the top players to consider include center fielder Pete Lyman, high school player committed to Harvard. Very nice defensive outfielder, like the high work ethic and baseball IQ. Looks like a very good contact hitter who's potentially kind of meh in the other batting ratings. Okay with his speed, nothing exceptional. Decent player, looking for pretty big money for a 34th overall pick, $2.5 million above slot. Starting pitching prospect, R.J. Beckstein, high schooler out of Gloucester, Rhode Island. Another guy looking for a relatively big demand, $6 million, low baseball IQ, good stamina, decent at holding on runners. Potential 5-pitch arsenal, although most troublingly, perhaps, we don't think his fastball is ever going to be anything particularly special. Do think his stuff, his movement and control could all ultimately be a bit above average. Another high school center fielder, Brent Hudson, looks solid defensively with a really nice arm, could be a very good right fielder. Okay in terms of his speed. Good contact hitter, and we think his home run power and his eye could both be a little bit above average. And the final top recommendation from our scout, the center fielder Rob Pera, high adaptability and work ethic, not as good defensively as the other 2 center fielders we've talked about, but a little more speed and contact, gap power, and a batting eye that we all think could be above average, with kind of power that could be a little below average most likely. Switch hitter, looking for $3.4 million. Obviously a very early look at these 4 guys, but I think among these 4, Para might be the guy that I would go with, but there's lots of other players to consider. We'll see who should have been off the board according to the mock draft. Brett Hudson, who we already talked about, was expected to go 19th to Texas. Pete Lyman, who we also talked about, expected to go 24th to the White Sox. A few new names here now that we can talk about, though. Starting pitcher Cody Gibbs, 17-year-old out of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Solid stamina, good at holding on runners, potential 4-pitch arsenal. We think he can get the velocity up into the mid to high 90s. I think his stuff could be a bit above average, control a bit below average. Catcher Antonio Torres out of UVA, pretty average defensively, does have potentially outstanding home run power and an outstanding eye, but he's going to strike out a ton, not a ton of speed. Certainly that power and eye combination is very tempting for a catcher. But as a guy who's almost 22 years old, certainly looks like the contact, the strikeouts, and the gap power are all issues where he's got a lot of development that he needs. And his ratings currently in those traits are not particularly good. And we also don't think there's really a ton of potential for him to improve. If the defense was better, I'd probably be more inclined to think about him, but he's basically a DH with those catcher ratings, and looks like he could play left field or even right field in a pinch, but definitely don't want him behind the plate on a regular basis. Another college player, center fielder Nick Rossman out of Texas A&M. Like the durability, looks more like a corner outfielder to me. Not great base running instincts. Good contact hitter who's kind of meh at everything else. Not a lot of home run power. Probably not going to be at the top of our list. Left fielder Hector Ortiz. Dominican player, switch hitter. Looks like average to above average in terms of the potential batting ratings, like his durability. He's actually in high school in Massachusetts. I was looking to see where he went for high school up there, and for some reason I focused on the fact that he was Dominican, but that explains why he's in the draft, because he's in high school in Massachusetts. Not a great defensive player, not a ton of speed, but certainly, and somewhat sadly, probably one of the better batting profiles we've seen. Looks like it may be somewhat slim pickings here with us with this 34th pick in the draft. Last guy who was expected to come off according to the mock draft, starting pitcher Scott McCoy. Like the extreme ground ball tendencies, I think he's going to do an incredible job keeping the ball in the park. Also potentially has outstanding control. Movement on his pitches for an 18-year-old is already excellent. The question with him is his stuff. Only 40 stamina as well, and a 4-pitch arsenal. We think all those pitches, with the exception of the splitter, are below average major league pitches, even if he reaches his full potential. Taking a look at the draft pipeline, I'll take a look at a couple of the top 20 guys. Anthony Sains, another starting pitcher out of Kentucky. Like the durability, good stamina, outstanding at holding on runners, high baseball IQ. Potential 4-pitch arsenal, although for a 21, soon to be 22-year-old, fair amount of work to do on everything except the fastball. But we think the stuff, movement, and control could all be slightly above average. Actually don't hate him compared to the rest of this prospect class. Starting pitcher Brian Joseph, 22-year-old college senior out of TCU. That lack of control, and even though he throws in the triple digits, is likely to keep him from being a first rounder for me. If he happened to drop in the draft, perhaps could consider something else, but given that 80 potential that the OSA sees him having, although with a sickly 25 potential as far as his control, probably not a direction that we will be going. And then another starting pitching prospect, Joe Priest, really good stamina, potential 4-pitch arsenal, although as you often talk about, a lot of work to do with the changeup, and don't think the slider and the cutter are going to be particularly special pitches. So that's a very high level overview. We'll take a look from the draft pool format just to talk about a few other players. Highest potential pitchers are out there are all relievers. Phil Davidson, 30 stamina, 70 at holding on runners, ground ball pitcher who we think can throw in triple digits. His fastball already major league quality. Think he's going to pair that with a excellent change, which could be a devastating combo. Stuff, movement, both off the charts or close to off the charts. Control potential also looks pretty good. Don't typically go for relievers in the first round, something that have talked about in comments to previous episodes with viewers, most recently including Patrick DeBonis, who has done that recently. And Cheetah Davidson, given how uninspired I am with my initial view of some of these options for us in the draft, could get some attention. We think about the OSA, and the OSA also very high on him. Bill Robeson, closer, another very interesting looking relief prospect. However, with those negative personality traits, the fact that he's impossible to sign and he's not quite as good as Davidson, in my mind, probably would be not the direction we would go. If we're going to go with a reliever, hard to imagine it wouldn't be Davidson. Another reliever, Jesus Rueda, pretty good looking prospect, and he's got a touch more stamina. Think he can get to triple digits. Rueda is a guy who, if he was able to develop another pitch along the way, could perhaps become an interesting starting pitching prospect. The OSA is also pretty high on him. They see extreme development risk, though, perhaps driven in part by some of their inaccuracy. We've already talked about Beckstein, the 19-year-old out of Rhode Island. Looks like a interesting high school pitching prospect, but a lot of work to do, looking for well over slot and low baseball IQ. Combine that in a high school package, that might be enough to convince us to lay off of him. Another reliever, Matt Howard out of Washington. Not too far off being able to help at a major league level. He's definitely a one-inning left-hander, but he throws triple digits. Stuff in his movement aren't far off major league quality. High leadership in baseball IQ, and he's with the Trenton Thunder in the draft league, and has 8 strikeouts in 8 2/3 innings, which is fine there. Has given up 14 hits and 5 walks, though, so a whip of over 2 for him. Ruben Medina, another reliever. Interesting guy, but not a first-round pick to me if he's still lingering on the market in a few rounds, perhaps. We talked about Anthony Sainz. Like the durability. Left-hander out of Kentucky is got the stamina that you'd like to see. But he's got some work to do with his movement and his control, and he's almost 22 years old. Those are kind of the top guys according to our scout as far as the pitchers. We'll check in on a few other starters. Again, this is going to be a long wait to me till the next episode, so not expecting anyone to spend inordinate amount of times on this, and obviously appreciate the time that anyone spends on sharing your thoughts with us. But since I'll be gone for a while, might as well get as big a pool out there. So we'll take a look at the 60 ceiling starters quickly. Jeff Colson out of West Virginia, actually not a bad prospect. He's committed to West Virginia. But for a high school prospect, don't hate him. High leadership and adaptability, good stamina, potential 6-pitch arsenal, and we think 5 of those 6 pitches can be really good ones. Think he can have well above average stuff with above average movement and control. Looks like the OSA has him very highly regarded. Another starting prospect, Bill Goddard out of Allegheny College. Looks like a guy who could be a solid fourth or fifth starter if he reaches his full potential. Like the durability, don't love the low level of competition that he has faced. Jesse Hoffmeister, high schooler, potential 5-pitch arsenal, fly ball pitcher, can throw in the triple digits, we think. Very good stamina. Keeping the ball in the park may be a bit of an issue for him. Chris Jones, left-hander out of West Bend, Wisconsin, although it looks like he's ended up in Vermont at Champlain Valley Union High School in Heinsberg, Vermont. High loyalty and work ethic. The question with him is his arsenal. I think that his control and his movement could both be very good, but unimpressive stuff for the Northern Illinois commit. James McPherson out of Point Loma Nazarene University, college player. Good stamina. The arsenal looks relatively meh. Do think he could have good movement and control when all is said and done. Gabe Moody, 19-year-old, committed to Duke. Potential 6-pitch arsenal for him. Good stamina, good at holding on runners. $5.5 million, looking for over slot, but of the high school pitchers we've looked at, I think that Gabe Moody probably has one of the more interesting profiles. Joe Priest, we already talked about him, another high school prospect that looks interesting. Don't know that we need to necessarily reach for any of these guys with our first round picks. Some of them will certainly be around in the second and perhaps subsequent rounds. Chris Walters, 18-year-old out of Petaluma, California, potential 4-pitch arsenal, like the high work ethic, outstanding stamina, decent at holding on runners. Think he could be a little bit above average at everything. And last, Jonathan Wilder out of California State University, San Marcos. Potential 5-pitch arsenal, like the high adaptability and work ethic. I think he can reach triple digits on the radar gun. Solid stamina. Looks like an interesting pitching prospect. Looking for a little more than we have available here at slot at number 34 overall. And we'll finish things off talking about our position players. You can see there's about a dozen guys with 60-plus potential, so not any potential monsters, at least according to our scout. 365 potential players. Catcher R.J. Holzinger, decent defensive-looking catcher out of TCU. Really good contact. Everything else kind of meh offensively. Really good at sacrifice bunting out of nowhere. Going to want to be paid. Looking for a little bit above slot. Center fielder Brent Hudson. Already talked about him. Decently balanced hitting profile. Looks pretty solid defensively. And Pete Lehman, another guy that we already talked about, looks pretty solid defensively, like the personality with the high work ethic and baseball IQ. Really good contact hitter who's kind of average-ish at everything else, bordering towards below average with the eye, looking for more than slot. And then it looks like we've got about 8 or 9 guys with 60 potential. Third baseman Jim Anderson. Very versatile potential defensive player, although not necessarily a very good defensive player. Infield ratings are pretty meh, potentially well above average home run power with an outstanding eye. Going to strike out a ton. The gap power is mid, and looks more like a left or right fielder. Left or right fielder, first base type, could play third in a pinch, and you can see in theory he's got the skill to play second and short and center field, although would not really want him at those positions. Don't really even want him at third, quite honestly, defensively. Aaron Andrus, shortstop, like the high leadership, nice arm. Rest of his defensive skills need a bit of work at this point. Good contact hitter, potentially above average gap power and eye, below average home run power. Looking for a big number at $6.5 million. First baseman Andrew Crowley out of George Mason University, a high school player, a bit further along in his development, not an incredibly high ceiling, but certainly one of the higher floors that we've seen given his age and where he is in terms of his development. 18-year-old Justin Farmer, really good contact hitter, kind of meh in terms of everything else for the Anaheim, California product. Center fielder Aaron Hallquist, also known as Big Game Bob, switch hitter out of Lake Station, Indiana. Looks like a corner outfield first base type, potentially interesting contact hitter. Nothing else really jumps off the page for Big Game Bob. Shortstop Matt Kuykendall looks competent defensively, like the high work ethic and baseball IQ and the low financial ambition. Low leadership is not ideal, but overall the personality is good. Really good contact hitter, above average gap power, good speed, but the Stanford commit is supposedly going to be impossible to sign. Second baseman Ryan Langlois, leadership and work ethic are high, looks competent defensively. Another guy who's a pretty good contact hitter, pretty uninspiring with the rest of his traits, does have high durability and some decent base running instincts. Center fielder Rob Pera, switch hitter out of Antelope, California. High adaptability and work ethic, looks like a corner outfielder. Contact, gap power, and eye, pretty interesting. The home run power below average. And last, but hopefully not least, Ryan Payton out of Las Cruces, New Mexico. Competent defensive infielder. Looks like an outstanding potential contact hitter who's pretty uninspiring with the rest of his offensive traits. So don't know that there's anyone who really jumps off the page to me as someone we're going to have to go sign. But at least there are a lot of options between the pitchers and the hitters for us to potentially pursue. I do think there's some interesting pitchers out there, particularly some of those high school guys. I don't know that there's anyone that I love as a first-round pick. I'm not going to, since I'm getting a bit pressed on time, go deep into where all of these guys go in the mock draft, but I will pull up the mock draft now to look at the first few rounds, which may help inform some of our decisions when I actually make these decisions in about a week. We already talked about all of the guys who were supposed to go in the first round, many of whom we've discussed. Ryan Langlois, mentioned him. He's supposed to go with a fourth-round supplemental pick. There's probably going to be guys who we talked about whose names I have forgotten already that I'm missing here. Rob Pera expected to go before we pick next. Bill Goddard, R.J. Holzinger, R.J. Beckstein, Joe Priest, Chris Jones, Matt Kuykendall. Can't remember. I think we talked about Aaron Hallquist, Gabe Moody, Brian Joseph, Ryan Payton. So a lot of the players that we've talked about are expected to go before our next pick at number 34 overall. I am intrigued by doing something that I can't remember the last time I did and take a reliever with a first round pick. But again, we're right at the round 34th overall, and I think Patrick DeBonis's point, which is a good one. If you think it's the best player, it really doesn't matter what position they play. And Cheetah Davidson, certainly an interesting prospect. I think it would be presumptuous to think that you could have all the luck necessary to turn Davidson into a pitcher by some successful trips, multiple to the development lab in terms of his stamina, and a successful trip or two in terms of adding pitches. I think if you draft him, you're kind of just probably trying to optimize his skills as a reliever. But pretty interesting guy. But I'll be able to spend a lot more time on this when I return. And as I noted, I'm sure that some members of the Worldwide Scouting Department will, as you always do, provide me with a lot of interesting feedback to think about as well. But I had missed if Davidson had gone somewhere in the mock draft. I think I missed that when I was looking through it. So it could already be on the screen, and some of you could be yelling at me for my blindness and inability to see what's right in front of me. Would not be the first time I've gotten that type of feedback. But hoping to just figure out exactly when Davidson was expected to go in the draft. And I haven't seen him yet through these first 4 rounds. Relievers generally do tend to last a little bit, but he is a pretty interesting relief prospect. There we go. I've been calling him Pete Davidson. I guess I've watched a little too much Saturday Night Live over the years. Phil Davidson, the cheetah. So he's not expected to go until the 5th round, the 20th pick of the 5th round to the Tigers. So maybe you get lucky and you can pick him up 2nd or 3rd round and get a little bit better value using the 1st round pick on somebody else that the rest of the league values a bit more highly. So a lot of interesting decisions ahead of us in this draft. Hope everybody has a wonderful week. Until the next time, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.